dysfunctional environment always leads to dysfunctional behaviors in adulthood. We have all these different ways of responding to survival situations, but how do we actually make that shift? You can be so informed, but until you know how to slow it down, stop and interrupt the cycle and change it in real time, you're kind of stuck in this information phase. Our subconscious mind, this is a place that we spend 95% of our day operating from, is built primarily when we are young, from ages 0 to 7. So whoever we spent the most time around during those ages, whatever environment we were in, that shaped our blueprint for how life looks, that shaped our belief system, that shaped our thought process. Most of us don't even realize the extent to how true this really is, and we end up in toxic relationships, dysfunctional relationships. We feel really insecure within ourselves. We have low self-esteem. We don't even really understand who we are. We have like this identity crisis. We people please. We try to prove our worth by providing value for others, or maybe we are very avoidant and we hide away. We try to make ourselves really small and digestible, but then we grow quietly resentful on the inside and blow up eventually, and then we feel ashamed because we blew up, we exploded with anger. When we grew up in dysfunction, we have a very dysfunctional way of responding to normal life events. We see normal life events as crisis situations, and it actually activates a survival response within us, and we tend to respond in the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses. There are specific responses that we can categorize and understand the way that we're responding. When we find ourselves acting in ways that are dysfunctional, ways that we do not feel proud of, one thing that's important to recognize: if you are feeling shame for the behavior, that behavior is not you because you're observing it. If you're able to feel a certain way about it, it is something that you did. It's a reaction that you had. It's not who you are as a person. You are not your conditioned responses. And if part of you feels ashamed, it's because part of you knows that you're not operating from a place of authenticity. And use this as a cue. Use that feeling of shame as a cue that you want to change, that there's something here that you desire to have happen differently. And let that be a moment for you to self-reflect. And that's what I really want to talk about in this video, is narrowing down on when these triggers come up, when you get triggered, when you notice yourself fleeing from the scene and you are going and running and you are distracting yourself, you're numbing yourself, you are spending time with friends, you're avoiding whatever is happening, and you are completely shutting down. If you have the fight response and you tend to get angry, you stand your ground immediately, you say things that maybe you wish you wouldn't have said after the fact, or you fawn, you people please, you minimize your needs, you overfunction, you become hyper vigilant and anticipate what the people around you need or who you need to show up to keep the environment as peaceful as possible. So we have all these different ways of responding to survival situations, but how do we actually make that shift? You can be so informed, you can know all of the different terms, you can know what's behind all of those things and where they came from, but until you know how to slow it down, stop and interrupt the cycle and change it in real time, you're kind of stuck in this information phase. So this is actually the process of changing and shifting, and what you really need to know is anytime that you're learning a new skill, it's not like you pick it up right away and you're good immediately. I'm learning to play guitar and it's really uncomfortable at first. First of all, it hurts my fingers, so I can only do it for so long, and really take this to adjusting your behaviors, because it is going to take time. It's going to feel really uncomfortable at first. It's not going to feel right. It's going to feel like anytime you're learning a new skill, it's like you have to get that muscle memory down. It feels weird at first. It's something you've never done before, and really remind yourself of this, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to revert back to your conditioning. It's going to happen, and this is when people give up and they're like, oh my gosh, I guess I am just destined to be unhappy. Oh my gosh, I guess I am just somebody who people pleases. I guess I'm just somebody who avoids things. It's just who I am. No, it's not who you are. It's who you learned to be. It's who you learned you had to be to keep your environment safe, but now it's actually keeping you in unsafe environments. Now that you're an adult and you have choice, you have freedom over where you show up, but you are reproducing the exact same things that you're used to. It's normal. It's going to take time. So really understand that this is going to take time. This is a new skill that you're learning. You don't need to understand every single trigger. You don't need to know every single thing. Like, if this happens, this is going to make me feel this way. What you need to understand is how it feels in your body when you are triggered. That way, when something comes up, regardless of what it is, because you're going to have so many different things that bother you for different reasons, and it would be impossible to know every single thing that might cause you to get upset. But if you can identify what happens in your body, maybe your heart starts racing, maybe you start to fumble over your words, maybe you start to feel very impulsive, maybe you start to feel like you want to go hide in a hole and never show your face, maybe you really want to start scrolling on your phone. Slow down, ask yourself this question right now. When you find yourself starting to spiral in that same thing that you always do, narrow it down. How does it really feel? And next time you feel triggered, bring awareness to your body. Feel how this feels. This is actually allowing you to become conscious in those moments when we move into a place of survival, when we're fighting, when we're fleeing, when we're fawning, when we're freezing. All of those things are happening at a survival response. This is happening at a subconscious level. When we're subconscious, we cannot be conscious. We are in a survival pattern, living out a response. So slowing down, becoming aware of the body. When we're curious, we're in a place of observance. When we're in observance, we are conscious. We're paying attention to how we really feel. So do your fingers get tingly? Sometimes my fingers get really tingly and it feels like I have to move them. Really pay attention to your body in these moments because it reveals a lot of information. And then use that as a cue. When you notice yourself start to feel this way, before the reaction goes into full swing, notice the cues. Notice the tingling fingers. Notice the way your heart races. Notice these things. That way maybe you can prevent it. You can take space. You can ground yourself before the reaction becomes bigger. But sometimes the reaction is going to become bigger, and that's okay too. It is going to be a process of back and forth, of learning, and that's just completely normal. And if you can approach it from this place of curiosity instead of this place of shame, and try to enjoy this experience as much as you can. I know that might sound weird, but so often we're trying to see the end goal of something. We spend all of this time, sometimes years, trying to achieve something to get to this one heightened moment of victory. And it's all for what? If you just were grinding and trying super hard and shaming yourself and pushing yourself harder and harder this whole time, it's really important to try to enjoy the process. So I know that might sound weird in terms of healing, but really celebrate yourself. Understand the little wins. Find joy in understanding yourself more deeply and understanding how to relate to others, because once you see yourself more clearly, you're going to see other people more clearly. You're going to have more empathy for yourself. You're going to have more empathy for other people. You're also going to have stronger boundaries for yourself. So you're going to be able to empathize with other people while also maintaining boundaries that protect your well-being and your peace and your joy. So yes, when you notice yourself getting triggered, use this as information. Get excited about learning yourself and know that it's going to take time. It's going to be up and down. It's so normal. So once we're in a place of identifying that we are either triggered or we're about to be triggered, whether we're full swing into it or just identifying the sensations early on, something that you can do that's immediately going to regulate your nervous system no matter what is to take 5 deep breaths. Feel the air move up through your head, down your spine, and feel your belly expand. Hold the breath at the bottom for a moment, and then let it go. Do that 5 times, and you will shift your nervous system into a more regulated state. You can also move your body. Movement's really important. You can take a 10 to 15-minute walk. After doing both of those 2 things, you should be at a more regulated place, a calmer state where you can see the experience from a more observable place. You can see it from a place of curiosity versus a place of reaction and of pain. And once you get to this point, this is really a place of self-exploration, and it's really important. A lot of healing is asking yourself questions, is being able to sit with yourself and be curious about what's happening underneath the surface. You're interrupting the cycle, and that is really what's going to create change, is when your body wants to go one way, and instead of doing that thing, instead of fully going into that reaction, you interrupt it and you stop it. This is the moment when you're shifting what your body knows how to do, and it's so important. And the more you do that, the easier it's going to be. And you have to understand that your body and your mind, your subconscious, it works on repetition. So this is going to feel very uncomfortable at first. It's going to feel completely out of your comfort zone. And it's going to be harder in the beginning. But the more you do it, the more your body's going to be like, oh, okay, actually, this is one direction we can go in, but we can also go this way. It's learning a new way of operating, especially in crisis situations when it wants to go survival, but your body is learning that these situations aren't as serious as they feel in the moment. So you pause and you interrupt the cycle. Now that we've paused and interrupted the cycle, then you can move into the self-exploration phase. In the self-exploration phase, this is really important too, because okay, now you've stopped the direction from going in the spiral, but now what do you do? Okay, so you've put the stop. What's the new direction? The new direction is to get curious, is to sit with the experience that you just had. So whatever happened in your life, let's just use an example of you are having an argument with your partner. Let's say that you're the more avoidant person. You want to run. Your inclination is to go run and hide. You want to go run in a corner. You want to go hang out with friends. You want to go to the gym. You want to do something to distract yourself from the situation ever existing in the first place. And any situation, you could be the more anxious person. You could have this could be something that happened at work. This could be any situation. So just think of the situation at hand. Explore the situation. Literally sit with yourself and ask, okay, what just happened? Ask yourself, how does that feel in my body? What am I feeling? What was happening for myself in this moment? What was my thought process? What was my belief system? Just really get curious and allow yourself to sit with that. Sit in silence. Ask yourself the questions. And allow your body to have a response. When you actually sit with these questions, oftentimes your body is just going to come up with a response. If you're a little bit more avoidant, it might take more time. But just be patient with yourself. Trust that your body knows more than you might think it does. Allow the answers to come up. Ask yourself, what does this situation remind me of? When is another time that I've felt this way? Just sit with these thoughts. Allow yourself to wonder. What did that situation remind you of? What happened in your past that reminded you of? What were you feeling? The way that you felt in that moment, have you ever felt that way before? What was happening in that moment? Really get curious with yourself. Allow this to be a moment where you understand yourself better, because when you understand yourself better, next time you try to make these shifts, it's going to be a little bit easier. You've interrupted the cycle. You know what's happening underneath the surface now. And the next phase is to ask yourself, what are you desiring? What would you rather do instead? What do you really need? So if you're in this situation where you want to run and hide, maybe what you really need is to cry. Maybe you have unprocessed feelings that you need to express. Maybe you have anger. Maybe you need to scream into a pillow. Maybe you need to go on a run. Maybe you need to cry. Maybe you have emotion that's built up that until you feel that emotion, you're just going to want to keep running from it. Our emotions can hold so much power over us when we're afraid to experience them. They are meant to be felt, to be expressed, to allow us to better understand what we need. So what is below that feeling? Maybe you need to feel. Maybe you need to communicate something. Maybe you're feeling a way about your partner. Maybe the reason that you want to shut down so much is because you are feeling insecure in your relationship. Deep down, you're actually feeling insecure that your partner is not interested in you. So you need to communicate this deep down feeling within you. And sure, that's scary, that's vulnerable. Oftentimes, this piece right here is when you have to admit to something that's a little bit hard to admit to. And yeah, so maybe it's explaining something to your partner. You have an awareness like, oh, this is what I need. Or maybe it's just with yourself. Maybe it's a situation that you're having with your partner, and it's actually a conversation that you need to have with your parent. Or if you can't have that conversation with your parents, you're not in a place where you're ready to handle the potential rejection that you're going to face with your parent, because at the end of the day, we cannot control how other people react. And oftentimes, if we grew up with a dysfunctional parent, they're not always going to be in a place to heal, even though we're at a place where we're healing our lives. Oftentimes, our parents don't do that. Sometimes they can learn through you, and that's beautiful in its own way. Sometimes we have experiences, and it's not actually about that experience, it's about something else. And that's what this self-exploration process really helps with. Sometimes we can run and have these problems in our relationships and have these big blow-up fights. And when you do this work, when you pause, when you actually do the self-exploration, you realize it's not even about that. It's actually about somebody else. So maybe you can't have that conversation with the parent or your sibling or friend or whoever this situation is actually reminding you of, but maybe you can write them a letter. Maybe you can process the emotion in a different way. There's so many different strategies for how you can do that, but addressing that pain instead of bringing the fear and bringing the whatever emotion that this is reminding you of into the relationship, and fearing that the way that the past was handled is going to be how it's handled in the present. So you're just like preemptively protecting yourself and running away from a situation so that you don't have to face it, because you just believe so fully that if you show up and you try, the person is going to disappoint you because that's what you're used to. So yes, we're interrupting these cycles. Our bodies, they're so immediate. They just want to protect us. They want to keep us safe. And it doesn't realize how much it's hurting us in trying to do that, because we learn when we're so young, and our circumstances can change, especially if we don't want to be living the same life that we experienced when we were young. This is truly the process that I do all the time. It is a lot of sitting with myself. It is a lot of asking myself questions. It is a lot of regulating emotions. You know what? Emotional regulation is sexy. A lot of people cannot regulate their emotions or even be aware of when they're having an emotional reaction. They can't identify their emotions. So learning how to do this stuff is going to make you so magnetic, and it's going to make you feel more confident. You're going to trust yourself so much more. And yeah, just trust the process. It's going to feel very uncomfortable at first, and it might even feel like you're not doing that much. It's going to feel almost counterintuitive to sit and have these conversations with yourself. You can journal this out too if you're visual. You like to have the cathartic writing process. But going through these questions, interrupting the subconscious, the survival mechanisms that we have, the instinct that we have to protect ourselves, interrupting that and being like, no, we can actually go this way instead, training our mind and body and being patient with ourselves in that process, knowing that it's going to take time is what's actually going to create the shift. You can give up on step one and be like, okay, I can't regulate myself, or you can do it once and then give up, but you'll never get anywhere. If you keep coming back to this and you keep trying, you are 100% going to create incremental changes over time. And in a year, even a month, you're going to see a much different version of your life. And it's just going to keep compounding. I've been at this since 2017 for eight and a half years now, and my life is so much different. Seriously, I could cry thinking about it right now, and it is, oh gosh, I just have so much more freedom. I can do and experience life so much more fully. I was a shell of myself. I was sad. I couldn't even have conversations with people. It was so bad. And my life feels so expansive and exciting and far from perfect, and I'm still learning. Oh my gosh, I'm a work in progress. But these small incremental changes will change your life, will absolutely change your life. So if you've stuck with me this long, thank you so much. I'm proud of you, because that means that you are investing in changing your life, and that's amazing. And if there's any other topics that you think would support you or would be interesting to just have dialogue or conversation about, put them down below. I am feeling very inspired to keep creating videos and creating community and normalizing that, when we grow up in a dysfunctional place, we have dysfunctional patterns, and if we can release the judgment and shame and realize that this is, so much of us are walking around wounded and we're getting tapped and just barely touched, and then we're freaking out and we blame everybody else. And once you really realize that you have a huge part in, you are the only person actually who has a part in changing that, when you really realize that, you have the power. You're empowered to change, and you can do, I think, almost anything with your life. It's exciting stuff. Anyways, thank you so much. Have a good day or night or wherever you are. Just be gentle with yourself, be patient, and I'll see you next time.